What is hostile social manipulation? What is this thing? It seems to be coming up a lot on defense accounts, comes up a lot on, again, more stratcom accounts. It's something that I've been now beginning to follow. ये exactly hota kya hai?
So, there are a couple of ways they do it, right? Similar, the way they have got Patwan Singh and this thing, they got our own Indian nationals, which reside with them, and they have got certain degree of influence, right, in our country. And similarly, they have got, because we are truly a democratic nation, right? Unlike so many Western countries where you can not drive. If you have to drive on the left, you have to drive on the left and stop on red light. In India, you don't have to. You can continue to drive the way you want to. You can come on the wrong side. You can throw a mug. You can jump a red light, and you can get away with everything. In those countries, you can't. So this whole freedom of speech is truly available here in India. You can trash the government of the day. I'm not talking the present government, only the previous time also, and yet say there's an emergency-like situation or हमारी freedom of speech नहीं है, right? So you can tweet everything about anti-Modi, anti-Amit Shah, और last में ये डाल दो कि there is no freedom of speech and we can't say anything. So it is only possible, this duality is only possible in India, where you exploit the system of democracy to voice. They have leveraged these over a period of time. The third is that they have a system of push forward. When I say they means not Americans. Anywhere who's practicing this art. That may be Russians, they may be Ukrainians against the Russians.
They want to damage a state.
Even they want to damage a state. So they have already got enough data bank available there with them in terms of the divisions and the fault lines of the system. And they nurture and nurse it over a period of time. And then comes a time, let's say farmers' agitation, right? It may be organic to start with. It may be organic, maybe not, I'm not sure, right? I'm not a political person, I'm not a bureaucrat, or I'm not into intelligence. But the fact is, if it is there, how to hijack it?
Amplify it for your own good.
Amplify your own good and thereafter leverage. Uska timing bada zaruri hai, Why should Soros release various public, articles or conditions, or you take a court case and you talk about it, which are all bordering on grey. They have got nothing very evidential to show against Adani. Why does it come a day prior to the voting of a major election? When the stock market starts crashing and everybody starts talking that Adani is this man, that man, this person, that person. Why is it happening? We need to, there's one thing I'm talking of. Similarly, why did it seem like in Bangladesh, it was a students' protest? It was not actually a students' protest. The underlying conditions were already existing. The phase started by the student protest by manipulation of social media's account, and thereafter, everybody is quite of what is happening today to the minorities in Bangladesh. You imagine when the farmer agitation was happening, not one person died in a police action, right? Yet there was negativism created on the social media handles to incite more. There was a chap who went on to Lal Killa and he planted a flag and he took down the national flag. Nothing happened to these people. You imagine if this happens in US, the guy will be shot. In Canada, they'll be put behind bars. There is a woman who...
No, but in Canada, they're actually doing whatever they want. They're putting up Khalistani flags with no consequence.
No, but if the reverse happens, if they go down and take the Canadian flag...
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, there will be total different... In fact, within 6 months, there's a farmer agitation in which the farmers in Canada had come onto the streets. And I hope you see the videos, how they were rolled back, hauled back, and pushed back and treated by their own police. So while we were getting sermonized without having done anything for nearly about 2 years worth of Delhi being blockaded from, and a larger population was suffering. But nothing happened. But yet we are getting sermonized how to handle the situation. But within days of this thing going, the Canadians use a different mechanism and force on their own farmers to discipline. That is how this whole social engineering on the digital media or the social media platform works. So you took over that very, very small movement of students thing, which looked to everybody a student movement. Sheikh Hasina gave everything and in fact she was not even responsible or accountable for the dubiousness of what happened, the reservations being rolled back.
Sure.
The story was totally different. But suddenly everything took over a different turn. And now nobody's talking about what is happening in neither Canada, nor US, nor China, not even so many people in India are talking about what's happening to the minorities in Bangladesh. That is how, and by the way, if you start typing, the levers of this dissonance is also controlled by the people who control the net. So you write, if I write today something which is very, very grievously anti and there's a moment which stops, your all Twitter handles will get
I've had some
removed.
Experience with YouTube in a similar manner. X has become largely center-right and finally a completely American state-owned in a way that perhaps the other medias have not. Sir, if I were to perhaps summarize what you said today, we simply think of wars between nations and uprisings happening within the populace as instigations happening on the ground. And we rarely take a social media movement and a hashtag seriously. We think of this as, okay, ये कुछ अभी viral हो रहा है, बढ़िया है, ठीक है, सबने share कर लिया. But we perhaps don't realize that we're finally in the era where social media movements can actually translate to real physical movements that can actually translate to regime changes, damaging a state or compromising someone's reputation. That is at least what I've gotten from you. Final statement or question on this perhaps from you. What can people do? जो लोग ये देख रहे हैं पॉडकास्ट, जो लोग सुन रहे हैं, जो भारतीय लोग हैं, जो पॉलिसी मेकर्स देख रहे हैं, सुन रहे हैं, because you worked so well at adapting people's minds, changing people's minds and building the perception of the Indian Army abroad and here, how can people start becoming aware of this perception game that is perhaps happening all around us?
अगर आपको इस पॉडकास्ट की छोटी छोटी झलक देखनी है तो Dostcast Clips को सब्सक्राइब करें.
Firstly, more has to be talked by the policy makers of the government of India. That this information warfare was being prosecuted on the Indians, not now, in last 10 years or 20 years. It's been on for at least a century, in which we were decried, we were told that your culture is substandard and ours is higher.
Sorry, one second. Have you seen the amount of racism that is expanded against Indians as our positive stories also come up?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Online.
So, they will call you names.
Pajit is a popular
Pajit
name.
or stuff like that, But that's okay, right? The problem is not they call the name. The problem is what we call ourselves names. Somewhere we have to start looking at our positives and strengths. We are not anymore the snake charmer nation, which the world wants to believe or portray us that we are the only snake charmers. There are youth. You go to the rickshaw driver today, rickshaw owner or the rickshaw guy. He has got a Bluetooth. He's got a thing in which he's listening to music and thing.
It doesn't a South Indian movie on a rerun.
Yeah, on rerun. So we are a different animal today. We are pretty ahead. Somewhere we have to have a faith and trust in ourselves, in our own community. We are a large market. We are a large resource nation wherein we can actually survive with some degree of engagement with the outside world, which is required to be done. So there is trust in your own culture going back to your own culture is very important. Second is that our policymakers should understand that there is nothing called this or that between kinetic forces, that is military forces, and the informational forces, right? The forces of information. Both need to be made strong so that your economic growth can go ahead. For example, a lot of people say कि लड़ाई नहीं होनी है कल को, तो आर्मी को छोटा कर दो, right? Armed forces को थोड़ा कम कर दो. Why do you require such a big army? You require that this army, so that your informational, diplomatic and economic progress can continue unhindered. If you are a weaker army, what the China was doing to us, they had just rolled back through disengagement, would not have happened. By mere diplomacy and information and economy, it doesn't happen. But a second animal, which we need to invest and requires a lot of hard work, or structural organizations to be created, is in terms of informational, which I don't think we have today. So, this whole system of PRO or our Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, these things are archaic systems. You need to evolve to modern systems in which our own think tanks need to be supported all over the world, wherein they can engage freely, go out and talk what India. You can't just rely on embassies, but you require our think tank, people who are well-read, who can talk about our culture, progress, economic prowess and everything, and what we have to offer by going and conducting talks. Americans, Chinese, everybody have got study circles, Germans, if you recall.
Yeah,
they got all these
language centers, influence के operations के लिए cultural centers होते हैं इतने सारे दिल्ली में हर जगह.
So कम से कम हमको उनसे सीखना चाहिए जो ये कर रहे हैं. So while our may be benign, but we need to sell our story positively, which is a positive story, while trying to blunt the negatives which are coming out. So this is not being leveraged enough. It is remaining only to our own population to a degree, but till the time you don't have an affirmation from the Western side, which everybody looks at. Agar, you read out two studies, Rand and Pew. They are not Indian studies.
They're American. I knew it when I was seeing it.
So you are, till the time our own such studies become so influential, it requires investment. You just can't say कि अपने आप हो जाएगा, कोई कर देगा. A college student from JNU University will do it. They all will do it negatively for paying, for looking for scholarship or for for visa or PRI status in the Western world. So we need to have our own educated, empowered, enabled, elite class going out and selling the stories to other places, right? Which is not happening. We require more to be done, right? आप ये जो YouTube channel चला रहे हो, similarly YouTube channels have to come about talking of international affairs, and they need to be reliable so that people...
Instead of peddling conspiracies for views.
Correct. So, conspiracies are okay to chit-chat, talk, but they should be, and it can't be done by an individual. It requires certain degree of governmental support. There should be something, and you should get data, you should get everything. It should be authoritative. People should switch on that what is happening in Syria, what is the implication for future geopolitical economics in war fighting, in kinetic, in radicalization, or in migration, what are the outcomes which are going to happen, what is happening in the last 5 days, should come out loud and clear from some YouTube channel which everybody should watch and everything should be tuning in. Something like alternate of BBC. BBC was also a perception management channel of the bits, but everybody believed in it. And that is how they were able to subtle manner paddle the narrative of the Britishers, right? So, कम से कम एक information channel होना चाहिए. It can be YouTube channel, it can be Facebook, it can be Twitter handles. There should be somebody who's empowered. It just can't be organic.